Coming up on the LCS Preview Show, we eavesdrop on the pros, score a penta, and reveal the sleepers that will turn your fantasy squad into a dream team. Don't touch that browser. The LCS Preview Show starts right now.
There we go, Cyanide will actually dive into the middle of the team, but it's gone wrong for him. He's going to go down. Triple kill for High! Super Hot Crew take down Gambit.
Very strong team fights here for Super Hot Crew in this game.
TSM is getting whittled down and running for Salas on their own mountain. Smiles on the face of Dignitas, and they take down Team Solomon at 48-50.
Shook in the middle of them, gonna try and kick Candy Panda back, does do that, they're gonna take him down.
I think Alliance have done it.
It will be Alliance that break through and go top of the European LCS.
What's up, everyone? I'm Rivington Bism III, and after 3 days of rest, relaxation, and rehydration, it's finally time to kick off Week 3 of the LCS Summer Split.
You're looking good, Griv, and I am Joshua Jat Leesman, and I've got the fantasy sleeper picks that will probably help your team to victory. I say probably because while our lawyers won't legally allow us to guarantee success, if you followed our advice last week and picked up Mimer and Selfie from our sleeper list, you probably won your fantasy matchup. It's not a brag if you're just talking about facts.
That's right. It's something I'm willing to brag about is our new home on LOLesports.com. If you ever miss an episode of the LCS Preview Show, or you just want to be good guy support and share it with your friends, then head over to LOLesports.com.
Yeah, there under the appropriately labeled Preview Show tab, you'll find VODs of our past shows. It's kind of like a nice place to see VODs.
Absolutely. Now, let's turn our attention from ancient history to just last week, where the 8 European LCS teams all took to the Rift for 2 more games. Our first featured matchup is Thursday's El Clasico match between the 2 most famous EU LCS teams, Fnatic and Gambit.
Yeah, this
first
game
matchup
started off in a nice Dragon Fit late first blood, and then Darian actually gets first blood, which is never a good sign if you're against Gambit.
No, they're able to switch it around, taking him down on Jax, but that was kind of the story of the game. Neck and neck all the way through until Cyanide might have made a few mistakes.
Yeah, he was trying to make a big play on Lee Sin here, but kicking back Darian is not the right guy to kick back. He actually went tank Jax, and it was trouble.
And when you do one play, you want to try to make up for it, but sometimes you fall a little bit farther in.
Yeah, this one is more just Gambit shutting him down. The Nami into the Lulu just completely screws over Cyanide, and this was a bad game for Fnatic and a great win for Gambit.
It really was. It allowed Gambit to pick up the 4-0 here, and with this win, Gambit can be the one to tie Fnatic 2-3 in the middle of the LCS pack.
Yeah, Nick there is now a full-time mid laner for Gambit as well.
Absolutely. Millennium versus Alliance, the next highlight. A rising Millennium versus the super team right now.
Yeah, and grouped up really early in the mid lane is Alliance. Kerp getting a little aggressive trying to stop that push.
Ooh, just when the Lee syndrome is the right medicine. That's all you need.
Out through the side as well, and Shook continues to make plays.
Yep, along with Nif, the hooks he's able to bring in really escalate the team into a victory position.
That would have been a nice insect if they didn't just instantly kill him.
Seeing more coming from Nif. He kind of plays the role of, I'm totally out of position. But really, the team's getting Baron.
And amazingly, 25 minutes in, that was Alliance's first casualty. The lead they'd built before that allowed them to secure the Baron, and it was an easy win for Alliance over Millennium.
Alliance proves they're the super team, and they're ready to keep going. Alliance versus SK to come up.
Really such a big matchup here, and a brawl early on in lane, and Rada gets hooked.
It's not very good to be given Tabs the early lead.
No, and it tries to continue right here. Tabs going up against Candy Panda, but Twitch actually turns it around, gets a few Ghost Blade crits.
That's right. Candy Panda knows, he understands the limits of that Twitch at this part of the game. You can see the confidence coming into the play. All these turns really just led to a great game as Alliance continues to play strong.
Yeah, and this team fight in particular, even though Candy Panda was staying at the outskirts of the fight, Shook just flies in there, gets some nice synergy in team fights with Wicked, something they lacked a little bit in the spring split.
And just watching Alliance in these fights shows their strength. Wicked happy there. They're ready to come away with the win. 5-1 Alliance, the loss to SK's 4-2.
Yeah.
Gambit versus Super Hot Crew, our next highlighted game. Both of these teams, something to prove with their new roster changes.
Yeah, and Diamond, not a roster change, but makes a bit of an error here trying to chase down a Mundo with no sight on the upcoming Lee Sin. He gets taken down pretty early. Super hot crew in a big lead.
And that one heated up Gambit a little bit. They went 4 strong at this bottom lane. And when it looks wrong, don't worry. We got Nick coming in from the mid lane with the save.
And I also love Edward's support Gragas. Even though he was mainly just baiting there, he is so hard to kill, brings so much utility, and he's continuing to try to innovate on that champion, even if Gambit's not finding great success.
A little bit of a turnaround as Super Hot Crew tried to grab some ground on that one, but the name right now, We Will FLICKR for Super Hot Crew, really able to make some plays and help out Raleigh as his AD.
Big time hook on a Nick there, really sealed the deal. And he's tall. He's a tall AD carry.
Now with their win over Gambit, the Super Hot Crew finds themselves tied for second in the league. Not too shabby.
Yeah.
With 21% of the summer split already behind us, let's take a look at how the race for first place is shaping up. Thanks to a perfect week 2, Alliance is now sitting alone at the head of the table, while SK Gaming falls back to second place, where they're tied with the Super Hot Crew. Now, to help us navigate through the European LCS, I'd like to welcome a man who dances like Jabba and shoots like a stormtrooper, Trevor Quickshot Henry.
That's probably the best introduction I've ever had, Riv. But I got better moves than Jabba. And also, my aim is pretty good because Alliance are still sitting at the top of the table.
True enough. All right, I'll give you that one. So Alliance has been killing it, but so did every European team last Friday. During Friday's 4 LCS games, Trevor, the 8 European teams racked up 124 kills, the highest total ever for a standard 4-game day. Why was everyone so bloodthirsty?
So I've gone out of my way to talk to the pros and figure it out, and they've all said to me they were just venting their frustration because they were tired and stressed out and mentally drained from all of their rotations. No, but seriously, the reason there were so many kills, we had 4 games of straight-up lanes. Teams were just going for ganks, they were going for dragon fights, we had 20-minute farming sessions that led to really explosive team fights, and it reminded me of Season 2 or a Season 3 playstyle. You've mentioned it already, 124 kills for the day, it averages 31 per game. You contrast that to a regular league day, we only have 96 kills or 24 per game. So it ended up giving us really dramatic, really exciting games to watch. In particular, Woolite and Airwax from the Copenhagen Wolves, they each racked up 11 kills apiece. It helped them take down Rocket, and it was because of those two that we actually broke that most kills in one day record. They were the last game of the day, and they just went ham, and it was super exciting to watch.
All right, now Quickshot, the team that gave up the least kills last Friday is the newest team with a seat near the head of the table, the Super Hot Crew. What's been the biggest difference between the crew that started the spring with a 1 win and 5 losses and this summer's iteration of Super Hot Crew?
So the thing is, it's not one thing, Riv. The whole team is really stepping up. The roster swaps are finally paying dividends. Remember, they swapped Selfie out at the beginning of end of last split. They got We Will FLICKR at the beginning now. And every aspect of their team play is getting better. Their picks and bans, their laning strategy, their individual play. Selfie in particular, he's really turned a leaf. If you compare his spring to his summer performances, it's like night and day. His champion pool is better. His ability to play mid to late game is better. And just everything about Selfie is stepping up. The man on your screen right now, We Will FLICKR. He's looking to create objectives. He's finding picks. He's finding objectives. We're also hearing from some other teams that he's quite involved in the shot calling. So even he's leveling up the game. I just think every single aspect of the Super Hot Crew has been improving. And the one thing you've also got to remember, they've got an external analyst. They've got a dude looking at their game, looking at their macro strategy, and saying this is what you should be doing better. And it's showing proof. It's doing well. We need to see if they can keep it up for the entirety of the split.
All right, Quickshot, thanks for taking the time. We'll see you next week.
Yeah, the pleasure's mine. We'll see you then, Riv.
All right, now I'd like to welcome the second half of our European duo lane to the show. How you doing, Shox?
I'm good, Riff. Thank you.
And now, Shox, we heard what Quickshot had to say about the Super Hot Crew's recent success. When you spoke to the crew, what did they credit for their fast start to this summer split?
Well, Riv, when I talked to Impaler, he mentioned a multitude of reasons why the Super Hot Crew leveled up as a team. First off, as a group, they are feeling a lot more motivated and happy and are trying to stick to a tight schedule. Their new analyst, Nick, is working with them to improve their macro-level strategy and watch more replays, and they have implemented a new shot-calling system where Impaler and We Will FLICKR now take the reins. Impaler thinks they can still improve a lot as a team and that the quality of EU was lower than NA at the start of the split. He thinks the Super Hot Crew understands playing competitively defensively a lot better than before and hopes they can all improve together to stand a chance to represent Europe at Worlds. Now, Impaler also mentioned a new interesting take on how they should approach the games, and I quote, "We are practicing acting more like dragons instead of tigers. Dragons choose their fights and have an overall aim, whereas tigers just attack because they're hungry or whatever."
Well, if they have dragons, they should also be able to protect the gold pretty well. All right, Shocks, I've got to say goodbye for now, but we'll see you in just about 15 minutes for the start of the European LCS.
See you in a bit, Riv.
All right, so week 3 of the European LCS kicks off with 4 games today. First up, Alliance and Roccat blast onto the Rift with SK Gaming and Millennium up second. The third game features Super Hot Crew's Dragon style, taking on Fnatic with the Wolves and Gambit rounding out the day. Then Friday, day 2 starts with Gambit taking on SK Gaming, while the battle between the Super Hot Crew and Alliance looks like a possible fight for first place. Now, we need to shift our attention for a moment to the Challenger Series, where on Monday, former LCS pros NukeDuck and Mithy were suspended from the League Championship Series and the Challenger Series throughout the end of 2014. The suspension stems from, quote, tendencies to engage in verbal abuse and otherwise offensive behavior. And in Mithy's case, his tendency to engage in racial insults was also included in the ruling. About 3 hours after the suspensions were handed out by Riot, the Ninjas in Pajamas announced that they were releasing NukeDuck and Mithy from the Challenger team, a team the 2 former members of the Lemon Dogs joined shortly after the Season 3 World Championships. The newest member of the Ninjas, Alex Each, released his own statement shortly after hearing the suspension and NIP's subsequent release of NukeDuck and Mithy. In it, he said, "I did know the risk of playing with NukeDuck and Mithy, and having them banned now, yeah, it's sad, but I guess we'll be fine." He continued to say that, "I guess I agree on the bans, but the timing isn't really the best one for the team. Now we got only around 10 days to prepare for the next Coke match. But I won't give up. There are worse things happening in life." Alex Each and the new Ninjas in Pajamas will take on Ocelot and Gamers 2 Thursday, June 12th in the semifinal round of the European Challenger Series. All right, guys, if you are like our production staff here at the LCS Preview Show, one of the best additions to the LCS this summer, besides Bubba Dub's stash, of course, has been the LCS Fantasy. And now to walk us through the fantasy studs, duds, and sleeper picks for the week 3, let's send it over to Jat.
Thanks, Riv. And first I want to recap a little bit of fantasy from last week just to see who had the games. And actually, for the second week in a row, the top players in fantasy weren't the #1 picks in anybody's fantasy league draft. Some big play makers in this last week was Team Dignitas as a whole. 42 points was the most by any team. And it came against TSM and LMQ, which is incredibly impressive. Cowtard as well. More points than any other mid laner. But the impressive thing, he was only started in 2.9% of the leagues. The odd one, by comparison, was started in 2.6% of the leagues. And the third stud, of course, is Selfie. He was one of our sleeper picks here on the LCS Preview Show. Second most points amongst LCS mid laners. And he actually was started in 14% of the leagues. So you got to be listening to the sleeper picks a little bit better. On the dud side, however, it's pretty much all of Team Solo Mid. The first pick in most fantasy leagues was Bjergsen, only scored 13 points. That's not what you want when you pick him first. Joining Bjergsen on that list was amazing at 4.61 points, or, as some would like to say, 4.61 points more than the odd one, which was not too great in week 2. And TSM's Glebe, no, this is not a typo. That is negative 0.26 points scored with a projected 26 points, so well below the only player to score a negative for the overall week. Basically, you could have started Bunny Fufu, Mixta, or St. Fitch and had better results at support. But that was last week. Let's look at the guys who are possibly on the waiver wire or your bench that can help you win in week 3. Cop is a big player, of course, and a lot of it has to do with strength of schedule. Complexity gives up on average 21.7 points per game against AD carries. TSM gives up 17.7, surprisingly. So even with that, he's expected to have a big week. And Complexity is playing with a new jungler this week in Kez because Broken Shard is out. Next sleeper is Creaton. The Wolves actually give up 22.4 a game, which is the most in the LCS to AD carries. And even though SK doesn't give up many points in general, they give up 16.5 points per game to AD carries as well. Plus, Creaton's a superstar already. He's just on Millennium as well, so he will have a good week. Our final sleeper as well is Airwalks. He plays against Gambit, who gives up 18 points a game to junglers, and Millennium at 17. So even if he just plays average against those guys, he's set to have one of the top weeks for a jungler. And he's only started in 3.7% of the league, so he should be available, or at least on one of your benches. Also, players to watch out for. CLG, their entire team. Be careful with this pick. They're against Dignitas and Cloud9, the top 2 teams in the standings of the North American LCS right now. And that generally means they have to play amazingly to have fantasy success. So if you have a better option, go with that one. Selfie as well. He was a sleeper last week, but he was a sleeper for a reason. He's against Xpeke and Froggen this time, 2 incredibly strong mid laners that should give him a run for his money. Bench him if you can, and you have a good replacement. Pobelter as well, strength of schedule, has to play against Shifter and High. Pobelter's good, but that's really tough opposition, especially in the team category. But now that you've heard our fantasy picks, we want to hear yours. Hit us up at LOL Esports, use the hashtag LCS Preview, and tell us which player you think will score the most fantasy points in Week 3. Now that we're done with that, it's time to listen on what the players had to say during Week 2 of the LCS. It's time for another All Chat.
Peter. Who's your favorite support?
Nice! Holy shit, after the god, man.
Okay. It's you, baby. Okay, of course it's you. Wow, a little hesitation there.
Come. No. Well, you shouldn't have.
Yeah, I shouldn't have done that, sorry.
Kobe?
Got him?
No.
Oh.
Oh, no!
Nice.
Push!
Egg Special.
What's up?
Was TSM funny in the pre-chat?
Yes.
My ring finger is like hurting. Oh, really? Yeah.
Oh, maybe you should put a ring on it. Keep going. The ball. Come. Just kite. Nice! There we go.
Also, guys, whenever we're doing all this, remember, don't all talk at the same time.
Nice!
Leona. Go. Don't chase. Nice. Leona. Come here. Watch out. Get Lucian.
Okay, that's fine. You don't need to chase. You don't need to chase. Oh, never. Oh my God. What a monster. That's my boy.
Okay, now that we're 2 weeks into the season, it seems like the perfect time to start looking at some stats. So let's look at some stats. The league leaders for the most kills through 8 games are Alliance's AD carry Tabs with 37 and LMQ's AD carry Vasily with 35. When it comes to the highest average CS at 10 minutes, once again, it's Tabs, while LMQ's mid laner, Xiao Zhao, is the best in NA. And remember, it's Xiao Zhao with an SH, even though it looks like an X. When it comes to kill participation, Tabs finally met his match as the Wolves Airwalks is tops in the EU with just over 85%, while Curse's Void Boy is #1 in North America. Now let's take a look at some team leaders, starting with the CS at 10 average, where 2 teams that are struggling against champions are doing great against the minions, Europe's Gambit and North America's Curse. Now the teams that get the most first bloods in the league actually do include some of the best in the LCS. Roccat and first place Alliance lead in Europe, and in second place CLG, and in first place Dignitas crush the North America. Our last team stat we'll get vision on today is ward placement. Alliance proves that knowledge is power, dropping more wards than any other team in Europe, while LMQ loves laying down vision control more than any other squad in North America. Speaking of stats, I've got to give some love to CLG's Link, who last week recorded the 10,000th kill in American LCS history.
Yeah, pretty impressive stuff. Link's ball delivery helped deliver the milestone kill on TSM's Glebe, so it wasn't a total waste of a week for Glebe. But besides giving our congratulations, which, congratulations, Link, we thought it would also be a perfect time for a little reflection. The player who's recorded more kills out of the 10,000 than any other pro is actually Link's teammate Doublelift. He's been on the good end of the kills 435 times over 90 LCS games. Fellow 80 carry Cutie Pie, Cop, and Wild Turtle round out the list, with Turtle reaching the top 5 in 14 fewer games. Meanwhile, the only mid laner on the list is the only one no longer playing in the league, unfortunately.
That's right. But of course, you can't have kills without deaths. And even though the 10,000th death actually happened way back in week 1 of the summer split, we're still well within the statute of limitations for infographics.
Damn right we are. The player who's been sent to the fountain more than any other since the LCS kicked off a year and a half ago is the Kiwi Kid with 303 deaths. That's a lot of time spent looking at the countdown timer. 3 of the next 4 are also junglers, which actually proves that it really is the most dangerous role in the league. And funny enough, there are actually 3 members of Dignitas on this list now that Zion has joined the notorious DIG.
But if Dignitas keeps playing the way they have the first 2 weeks of the summer split, There might not be 3 on the list for long. Let's kick off our NALCS highlights with the game that produced the 10,000th kill. CLG versus Team Solo Mid. CLG's 2-2 going into this. Is TSM 3-1?
Yeah, and do not be alarmed. CLG actually had a good week after this play because this play was ugly.
A little bit of miscommunication. This is what it looks like when you take cups and string to talk to each other during a gank.
A lot of times you don't find out what the other person's saying. You think it's going to work just fine, then you both die to a turn.
Not too long later, just 22 minutes, it's the ball delivery that everybody knows. A seamless flash pulverize.
So smooth. It was one continuous motion for Aphromoo. And just like that, the game was over.
Yeah, and that's going to tie CLG with TSM after that win. Things are heating up in the NALCS. Next up, highlight LMQ versus Dignitas. Really eyes on the mid lane. Xiao and Shifter.
Yeah, with the win here, Dignitas would tie themselves with LMQ for the best record. And somehow, there were no eyes on Dignitas when they get first blood at the red buff.
They wanted to get under LMQ's skin very quick, and it's not going to take much longer because Zion Spartan's helping with this roam.
Yeah, Xiao was already the 1v1 Shifter. That was a 1v3, and that's actually what LMQ was using as a tactic back in week 1, so Dig gives them a taste of their own medicine.
And Dignitas, in what looked like to be a scary situation, they were just planning it out. Zion said, don't worry, I'll have you back. I'll be there in a second.
Yeah, Kiwi Kid's record-setting death every time he dies, actually, is a good one, because that's the way he plays. He got the damage on Zara, and he gives the double kill after the teleport to I'm a Cutie Pie.
Plays like that all game made Dig too strong. 29 minutes in, a dominant take. 30 minutes in under the tower as they get to share first place with LMQ after this.
Yeah, and this was a dismantling of LMQ. This was their first loss in the LCS, and Dignitas crushed them.
Very great job there. Both teams 4-1, as I said on the split after that game. Our next highlight comes from LMQ versus Cloud9. LMQ's chance to prove their power.
Yeah, and what a game this was. Power, especially in the mid lane from Xiao. He was destroying high with a little bit of help from his friend, Ackerman.
Like we said, that early roam coming out from LMQ, and they make it happen for some good kills. And this fight was chaos as Ackerman teleports into the Dragon Pit, and everything happens, but Sneak is able to clean up in the end.
Yeah, the end of a very long engagement. This was LMQ's textbook aggression, just blindly running into the team. But this time, it only works out in a trade, and they give 2 very important kills to Sneaky's core.
44 minutes in, this fight was all about dodging skill shots, being in the perfect position, and just knowing how to micro in and out. Also, you can kind of give a plus up to a double flash bubble from Lemonade.
Yeah, very important ignite and kill onto Vasily just at the end there. That allowed High to hop into the rest of them and clean up LMQ.
Great plays. High seeming to be back to form along with Cloud9. LMQ, let's see if they can continue to be a powerhouse in the LCS.
What a game that was.
Absolutely. Next up, we are looking Dignitas versus Team Solo Mid as their highlight. Strong Team Dig versus the struggling, needless to say, Team Solo Mid.
Yeah, these roster changes for TSM a little bit questionable. They don't seem to be making too many actions. 24 minutes into the game, and we hadn't even seen the first kill. It goes to Dig.
Just so much control. You got to see going for the Baron Pit. They try to make it work, but no longer Dignitasing it at Baron. Dignitas knows what needs to be done in this situation.
Yeah, they poke and prod at TSM until they are low enough and land the all-important bubble onto Wild Turtle. At that point, Dignitas just piles on to clean up TSM.
41 minutes into the game, 4-0 at Baron. You can't ask for more other than a better way to secure first place. I think that'll be it.
Yeah, Dignitas looking real good and confident. Maybe a little too confident.
Maybe a little too much. See if it comes back to bite them. Thanks to their perfect week 2 performance, Dignitas finds themselves in first place for the first time in 381 days, if you go by win percentage.
Yeah, but even though Dignitas' 5-1 record is their best start ever in the LCS, Cloud9, Counterlogic Gaming, and LMQ are tied for second, just 1 game behind them.
And heading into week 2 of the LCS, Dig's games against Team Solo Mid and LMQ promised to be a series of litmus tests to gauge just how good the new Dignitas really was. And I think it's safe to say they aced the tests. Shifter and crew walked away with 2 big wins over teams that most considered to be 2 of the toughest in the league. And remember, they already beat Cloud9 in week 1. Dig is crushing it with dominating teamwork and incredible individual efforts. Crumbs, Zion Spartan, and Shifter all lead their respective roles in KDA, with their new mid laner leading the entire LCS, recording a godlike KDA of 31.5 after just 2 weeks of LCS play.
And before week 1 of the summer split, we talked about Dignitas adding the solo lanes from the 6th place team to the remainder of the 5th place team and hoping it would add up to a 1st place finish somehow? Well, it's been working out so far because they are actually in 1st place. And last split, the solo lanes were a huge weak spot for Dignitas, particularly mid lane. Scar couldn't kill anyone. Then when they replaced him with Golden Glue couldn't get farm. But Shifter, on the other hand, he outfarmed Xiao last week on Ziggs, and he's got a ridiculous KDA because he's getting tons of kills without dying. Meanwhile, Zion in the top lane has been able to play aggressively since he isn't being focused on by enemy junglers who have their hands full trying to deal with the rest of Dignitas. The player who probably benefited more than anyone else, though, was Crumbs from the new solo lanes. In an interview with The Desk last week, he said that he's, quote, finally able to play the way he wanted to play. He said he's basically another support that heavily wards and gets his lane rolling. And so far this summer, he's averaged 29 wards dropped per game, which is 10 more than he was able to average during the spring split where he had to spend so much more money trying to be tanky for himself. And I don't want to go too crazy and declare Dignitas the summer split champs. They did lose convincingly to Curse in week 1, but Dignitas does look like they're ready to make a run at Worlds with these new roster changes.
Now, while Dignitas' Week 2 couldn't have gone any better, LNQ and Team Solo Mid's Week 2 couldn't have gone much worse, to say the least. After the first week of the season, TSM and LMQ were at the top of the standings. Despite some struggles, Team Solo Mid finished the week at 3-1, tied for 2nd place, while LMQ looked like they were ready to destroy the NALCS. But what a difference 1 week makes. After failing to win a game during Week 2, LMQ looks average and Team Solo Mid looks like they might be in trouble.
And we knew heading into the summer that Team Solo Mid might have some growing pains with new players, and 2 of them, and they actually have had some struggles. To be fair, TSM is doing fine during the laning phase. Their average CS at 10 minutes is almost the same, and they've only taken 1 less Dragon over their 3-3 summer start than they did during their 5-1 spring start. But then as the match progresses, the cracks start to show in TSM's game, particularly in shot calling and leadership. By the time we get to the mid game, they just look disorganized. Their overall team gold is almost 10% lower, while poor team fights have seen their combined KDA drop by almost 1.5 points. And finally, they just don't know how to close out games. If you look at their average game time, you can see that it's increased by around 17%, which is another indication that they're lacking the late game decisiveness that got them off to such a hot start in spring. One team that did have a really hot start to the summer, though, maybe even harder than anyone, was LMQ. They did fantastic in Week 1, but then after Week 1, they were 4-0. Xiao was farming God. LMQ was owning the Dragon Pit. Then they went 0-2 in the next week. It looks like a lot of that actually had to do with their strength of schedule. After 2 weeks of the NALCS summer split, the combined record of LMQ's Week 1 opponents is 8-16. Their Week 2 opponents are now combined 9-3. And just like I said about Dignitas, we're only 2 weeks into the summer split, but after 2 weeks, it does look like LMQ still has some work to do if they want to become the next top team in North America.
And there is some good news for LMQ and Team Solo Mid in their bid to turn the summer around. At least one of them will start out Week 3 with a win. Here's why. That's because Week 3 of the North American LCS kicks off with a battle between Bjergsen's Team Solo Mid and Xiao's LMQ, while first place Dignitas faces off against second place Counterlogic Gaming later in the day.
And then on Sunday, our NALCS weekend continues with the fight between Cloud9 and Counterlogic Gaming, while Team Solo Mid takes to the Rift against former Support X Special in our final game of Week 3.
Now it's time for the only thing more metal than smiting and igniting. It's the top 5 plays from Week 2 of the LCS, or as Pentakill Karthus calls it, the preview show Penta.
At number 5, Expeke dodges all the skill shots, but can't dodge the double shot.
Find Peke. Where's he going? Peke was trying to get back, but Lucian surely going to block off his path. There he's cleared. The double auto attack from the Light Slinger going straight through there, and both landing for another kill for Millennium.
At number 4, it's Zion Spartan with the snipe over the shoulder and the narrow escape.
Yeah, they're hitting level 6 breakpoints a little bit earlier as well. Can he land them?
Oh, over the shoulder. That was a Noah. Woo.
Rapidly find that stuff up, and now Xiao is pulling off some roam of his own.
8 seconds.
Which front? He's got to guess.
Door number 2. Door number 2. No good. Oh, no, wait. Whoa, he got out alive. Would you believe it? Man.
At number 3, Shook shakes things up for Kurt in the mid lane.
We talked about the lack of wave clear from LeBlanc. From Trundle, of course, he can't jump in with distortion. That's why Alliance can now push this tower.
Well, if he does jump in, he could get flayed straight away. Oh,
there it is.
Niffa just used it. There's the death sentence, hooks him in! And Shook follows straight through with a Sonic Wave. Nicely done.
Coming in at number 2, Lemonation's Double Bubble became Double Trouble for LMQ as High picks up the triple kill.
C9 from the backside. They were just on the front side. What is happening in this fight? High turns it around. Again. He's going to go for the triple. Woo! Triple kill for High.
So Lemon thankfully kills Vasily, and that lets me kill everyone else. If Vasily didn't die there, we probably would have lost that fight. Thank God for Lemon.
And the #1 play of the week is brought to you by CLG's Ball Delivery Cow.
Initiation burst onto Afro.
The one that heals.
Not going to be that effective.
Yeah. Oh! There it is! The ball delivery system! There it is! They get it there by 10 a.m. guaranteed.
Everybody knew what was coming. Everybody saw the clip flash flip. Aftermoo and Link once again pulling off the combo.
All right, guys, that does it for another exciting episode of the LCS Preview Show. Before we send you over to Cologne for the start of the European LCS matches, may I first invite you to sit back, relax, and listen to the soothing melodies of our last hit.
Have you been waiting for the album of the century? Well, buckle the up, your wait is over. Introducing Songs from the Rift. Hear all of your favorite LCS pros sing off-key and crappy. You'll get hits like the nonsensical Instalock song.
I think Instalock song. Oh.
Over the Rainbow with compromised lyrics.
Once in a lullaby.
Single ladies?
If you like it, then you should have put a ring on it. If you like it, then you should have put a ring on it.
Trollolo. Yesterday, also with compromised lyrics.
Seems so far away, but now I need something that seems to stay.
Beatbox. Do you want to build a snowman?
Here we are.
Do you wanna build a snowman? Okay, bye.
Okay, bye. That makes no sense.
And much, much more. Hold Me Closer, Phantom Dancer. Let It Go. They banned all my champions. Using my active. Best game of my life. These boots were made for killing. Songs from the Rift. Call now for your free copy. That's right, free. We can't even give this crap away.